Okay. Hello. Welcome once again to Living Well. I'm so sorry for that, for the pause that we had just a while ago. I think I'm back on. Okay, we want to welcome each and every one of you to Living Well once again. I am so glad that you took time off to be here with us. I just want to let you know that Living Well is here for you to learn about your health. Before we start, we just want to give this short disclaimer. This presentation is for educational purposes only. The information shared here is based on research, personal experience, and biblical scripture. Our goal is to educate you on the topic, not to assess, diagnose, prescribe, or treat any medical condition. If you have a specific condition or situation in which you are concerned, you are encouraged to seek advice from your personal physician. This again is for educational purpose only and is intended to increase your awareness on the topic. So today we are going to be talking about food for thought. Food for thought. You know, the brain is one of the hardest working organ in the body. If you stop to think about it, the brain controls every movement in our body, every action, our heartbeat, our breath, everything that we do triggers the brain to work. Therefore, for the brain to function in its optimal level, we must fuel the brain with proper nutrients. Food is the brain's fuel. The right types of food enhance the function of the brain. The right type of food also help us feel energetic, improve our thoughts, ability to think clearly, and enhance our mood. Last month, we were discussing how to correct our thoughts, how to prevent distorted thoughts, but we did not discuss much about nutrition. But since this month, we are going to be talking about nutrition, I thought it would be just appropriate to dive into the nutritional aspect of the brain. How nutrients affect our moods, anxiety, cognitive function, and overall brain health. So the brain operates by sending out signals to various cells, tissue, muscles, and organs for them to function. These signals are conducted via neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are brain chemicals that carry signals from one neuron to the other. A neuron is a cell that transmits information to other cells, muscles, glands. Neurotransmitters play a very important function in our bodies. More specifically, neurotransmitters are chemically communicated that carry message from nerve from one cell to the next. Without neurotransmitters, our bodies cannot function. Too high level or too low level of a specific neurotransmitter result in specific health problems. So what are some of these neurotransmitters? So far, scientists have identified more than 60 distinct types of neurotransmitters in the human brain. And more experts say that there are more left to be discovered. Today, I am going to talk about 5 of these neurotransmitters and how to improve them with nutrition. So the first one we're going to talk about is serotonin. What is serotonin? Serotonin, we all know, plays a major role in sleep. Serotonin is a precursor to melatonin. We must take in serotonin in order to produce melatonin at night. Besides sleep, serotonin plays a role in preventing depression, panic attacks, anxiety, and health management. It also helps manage the frontal lobe. So eating foods that contain essential amino acid like tryptophan can help the body produce more serotonin. In order for serotonin to get into the brain, it needs tryptophan, which is an amino acid, to get it into the brain. Tryptophan is produced in the gut. We need tryptophan from our gut so they can enter into our brain. Tryptophan, as I said, is an amino acid that turns serotonin that turns into serotonin, that helps serotonin turn into melatonin, and melatonin also at night for us to be able to sleep. Once we get tryptophan in our diet, we need to convert tryptophan into 5-HTP in the brain. The conversion of 5-HTP in the brain is inhibited if we are stressed, insulin resistant, low magnesium, vitamin B6 deficiency, and lack of light. And also our age, increasing age can cause a deficiency in tryptophan, and which also would cause a decrease in serotonin. We can get, we can be getting enough tryptophan in our diet. Although we eat and we get enough tryptophan in our diet, if we do not have insulin to help carry this tryptophan into the blood system to cross the brain blood barrier, we would not be able to get tryptophan into the diet, into the brain. So we need to also have a healthy or have low insulin or be not to be insulin resistant in order for us to be able to carry tryptophan into the brain. So what are some foods that have tryptophan? Green smoothies help boost our energy level. Leafy green vegetables help with the tryptophan. Also cayenne peppers, that helps with depression, to reduce depression. Almond nuts help to boost magnesium, which is a brain food. We have also oats, which also we need to help with decreased depression. Sunlight, very important for serotonin. That's to help release the happy hormones. So these are some of the things we need to include in our diet and activities we need to include in our diet so that we can boost our serotonin. Because if you don't have serotonin, we can get depressed. Another neurotransmitter is dopamine. Dopamine is that feel-good hormone, that feel-good neurotransmitter. Dopamine helps control functions, including behavior, emotion, memory, attention, and motivation. Dopamine also communicates with the frontal part of the brain, which is associated with pleasure and reward. Healthy dopamine level will help motivate you to work towards achieving your goals. Low level of dopamine can lead to mood disorder like depression and lack of apathy. Since dopamine is related to movement, low levels can also be linked to Parkinson's disease. The amino acid that we need to help carry dopamine or to help with dopamine production is tyrosine. Tyrosine is a non-essential amino acid. Unlike tryptophan, we have to eat because tryptophan is not made in the body, but tyrosine is one of amino acids that can be made in the body. Tryptophan is a non-essential amino acid the body makes from another amino acid called phenylalanine. Some of the foods that are high in tyrosine are foods rich in protein like chicken, eggs, fatty fish, mustard greens, tofu, edamame, which is green soya beans, roasted almonds, oats, sunflower seed, pumpkin seed, even squash seed. Fruits like apple, bananas, oranges, strawberries, watermelons, and avocado, a good source of tyrosine. I mentioned fatty foods like chicken and eggs. What I have found, research have found that saturated fats, such as those found in animal products, like butter and dairy, palm oil, coconut oil, may disrupt dopamine signaling in the brain when consuming large amounts. So we have to be careful with these type of high fat. One study found that rats that consume 50% of their calories from saturated fat had reduced dopamine signaling in the reward areas of their brain compared with animals that receive the same amount of calories from unsaturated fat. You know, the standard American diet is full of saturated fat. This could be maybe one of the reasons why we are seeing such an increase in the incidence of depression and anxiety, even in our young people. They are depressed and anxious. Once upon a time, depression and anxiety was called middle age crisis. Like when someone is depressed, it's usually an elderly person, and you would say, oh, that person is going through a middle age crisis. Today, we no longer can say that because children and young people are diagnosed with anxiety. So let us try and decrease our fat intake, increase those foods that are good, healthy foods that I just mentioned for dopamine. Another neurotransmitter is glutamine acid or glutamate. Glutamate is the most common excitatory neurotransmitter found throughout the brain and spinal cord. Glutamate has many essential functions, including early brain development. I heard one researcher or a researcher stated that dopamine, that our brain, the brain, of course, is the first thing that develops in utero. And if we go and look at the brain, we still have those brain cells that we were born with. Too much glutamine is essential for early brain development, cognitive learning, and memory. Too much glutamine can lead to agitation, restlessness, inability to concentrate, headache, insomnia, impulsive behavior, and even violence. Our body makes glutamate. Glutamate is a natural occurring chemical found in the body. We can easily obtain it from foods like tomatoes, sweet corn, leek, cheese, mushroom, broccoli. These are some of the foods that we can get glutamate from. If you're glutamate sensitive, you have to be careful with stuff like cheese, because cheese is high in glutamate. Cheese like Parmesan cheese, and meats very high in glutamate, especially those processed meats, which are usually cured with MSG. Processed food also contain lots of MSG. Texture protein and protein-like isolates can also have lots of MSG. Foods that are fermented and nuts can also have high amount of MSG, or glutamate, I should say. So if you're sensitive, you have to cut back on some of that. It is better to eat whole foods, fruits and vegetables, lean protein, and healthy fats in order to consume healthy glutamate. Another, these were some of the food toxins that has glutamine in it. These are things that cause excitability to the brain and cause more brain damage. Another neurotransmitter is gamma aminobutyric acid, or GABA. GABA works, GABA acts as a brake to glutamine. It works the opposite. GABA increases the level of tranquility by inhibiting too much nerve activity. GABA is the most common inhibitory neurotransmitter of the brain and the nervous system. The body naturally makes gamma neurotransmitters, which help the cells in the brain to communicate with one another. There are also receptors in the gut that that use GABA to interact with the brain and impact our emotion. GABA plays an important role in the visual system and helps with muscle control. GABA helps prevent anxiety, increase concentration, and aids with sleep, depression, and even seizures. Foods that improve GABA: fresh vegetables such as broccoli and spinach, fruits, especially the berries, fermented food like yogurt and kefir, lentils, lentil beans, brown rice, walnut and almonds, oranges and citrus fruit, walnuts, spinach, and sweet potatoes. These are some of the foods that we can find GABA in. The other neurotransmitter I want to talk about is acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is an important neurotransmitter that plays a role in the brain function, such as memory, thinking, learning, and body functions, and also for muscle contraction and to help with muscle movement. So if you find sometimes you're lacking, you're trying to think about something and you can't remember, it could be that you are low on acetylcholine. So some of the, I'm sorry, just lose my spot here. Acetylcholine is also known as an excitatory neurotransmitter. This means that it excites the nerve cells and causes it to fire off. And an overproduction of acetylcholine can cause cramps, increased salivation, lacrimation, which is an increase in flow of tears, muscle weakness, paralysis, muscle fasciculation, which means like the muscles twitching of the muscles, tachycardia, weakness, urination. So these are some of the problems that can cause from overstimulation or overproduction of acetylcholine. Some of the foods that we can find acetylcholine in are soya products, green beans, mugger beans, kidney beans, which can be converted into acetylcholine. And also we can find acetylcholine in codfish and salmon and tuna. Having a healthy neuro transmission of these neurotransmitters I just mentioned is very important. But in order for us to have good, healthy, for these nutrients to transmit into the brain, we have to have a good, healthy gut. You have heard about the gut-brain barrier connection. That is so true. That is real. There are approximately 100 million nerve cells living in the gastric intestinal tract, making up what we call the enteric nervous system. And the enteric nervous system primarily governs the digestion. The nerves in the gut, in your gut, communicate with the brain and your central nervous system, relaying the health of the gut and the immune system. So the gut brain is connected. There is that vagus nerve that connects from the gut to the brain, and that's how food and nutrients, I should not say food, but nutrients gets transmitted to the brain. The enteric nervous system can also produce neurochemicals like dopamine and serotonin, which can affect the mood and mental health. That's why if you do not have a healthy gut, you can feel sluggish, depressed, and show symptoms of lacking serotonin and dopamine, because these neurotransmitters are in the gut. Tryptophan, I should say, is also produced in the gut. So you see how important it is to have a healthy gut. Some of these neurotransmitters are secreted and stored in the gut. Like that says, for example, the serotonin, the dopamine, the tryptophan. If the gut biome is not functioning adequately, the brain will lack the chemical response or support it needs to function. Research has shown that our gut microbiome can affect every organ in our body. So how do we strengthen our gut microbiome? By eating foods that nourish the good, healthy bacteria in the gut. So what are some of these foods? Probiotics. Probiotics are important to help nourish the gut. Sometimes we take probiotic pills. We can also get probiotic from fermented foods like kimchi, yogurt, and sauerkraut. These foods provide the gut with beneficial bacteria. Not all bacteria survive the trip through the stomach, but those that do either settle in the gut or provide healthy benefits as they pass through. Prebiotics, another type of food that is important for our gut. Prebiotics. These are high fiber foods. These like Jerusalem artichoke, onions, garlic, food that contains fiber. Our body does not digest these fibers, but it goes into the colon where it's left there, and the bacteria feeds on those food, on the fiber. That's the food for the good bacteria. So we need to eat good, healthy fiber food so that we can nourish the good, healthy bacteria in the gut. These prebiotics also keep things from moving through the GI tract. We have different types of fibers. We have soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber feeds and nourish the gut microbiome, and they produce short chain fatty acid, which helps to keep the gut healthy. While insoluble fiber, that's what helps with preventing constipation and help to form stools and make it easier for us to go to the bathroom. Probiotics, living strands of bacteria that add to the population of good bacteria in your guts, in the GI system, while prebiotic specialized plants fiber acts as food for good bacteria. This stimulates growth and prevent any kind of pre-existing problems to take place. Now, I just want to say in conclusion, in order for us to stay healthy, we must put the right fuel in our body. So we need to start thinking about first those hormones or neurostimulants that we need in order to help our brain function. We need the serotonin, we need dopamine, we need acetylcholine, we need the gamma. Those are some of the neurotransmitters we need in order for us to keep our brain healthy. A healthy brain, we're able to think and we're able to function properly. We're able to have good thoughts, not distorted thoughts. We are able to control our mood and not to be in a depressed state. So we need to nourish ourselves with lots of fruits, vegetables, healthy fats, and whole grain. Very important for us to stay healthy. The Bible tells us that we need to be healthy. God says he wants us to be healthy above all things, to stay healthy and to be in good health. So let us take these few admonitions I gave you today and put it into practice so that you can have a healthy outlook on life. Thanks for listening.
Emilyn, I have a question.
Yeah.
Very good presentation. Thank you so much. The question I have is,
you are welcome. You're welcome.
Question I have, can you do stop screen share for a minute? You mentioned that low levels of dopamine can lead to Alzheimer's. But how do you know if your dopamine levels are low? They don't do those tests in the hospital, do they?
No, they do not. So, we need dopamine to help keep our mood up, to keep us positive. So if you find that you are lacking motivation, one of the things dopamine does, it helps with motivation. If you find that you're lacking motivation, you are depressed, you don't have that get up and go, maybe you need to look into why you're feeling that way. It could be because of low levels of dopamine. So I know doctors, you might go to the doctor and they might want to put you on an antidepressant. I was listening to Dr. Nedley, and he was talking about these antidepressants, how they affect us. Initially, these antidepressants will work, but after a period of time, these antidepressants stop working, and you have to increase the dosage. You have to keep going back to your doctor over and over to get refills and increase the dosage of these antidepressants. I am not saying do not take your antidepressant. I'm not saying you should not ever take antidepressant. But the antidepressant could be a stepping stone to help you bring your mood back. But what you have to do, as Dr. Nedley says, you have to zero in on your diet. Your food is essential. Taking away those things that will prevent you from getting dopamine and these good hormones into your body, or neurotransmitters like fatty foods, these refined foods, these are blockers to these neurotransmitters.
Questions for Emilyn?
You know, I want to say something about tryptophan. I know we all have heard that that amino acid name before, tryptophan. What, I'm sure if I ask the audience right now, which food that you can think about that has tryptophan?
It's a turkey.
There you go, turkey. Turkey. So I know around Thanksgiving we eat a lot of turkey. But after eating this turkey, why do we, if this is so important, tryptophan is so important for us, why after Thanksgiving, why after eating turkey on Thanksgiving, we get so down and tired and sleepy and all of that? Again, listening to Dr. Nedley, he was talking about tryptophan and the foods that are high in tryptophan. Yes, turkey was on the list. But from what he was saying, in order for tryptophan to get into the brain, you know, we have that blood-brain barrier. Tryptophan is a large molecule. So large molecules cannot cross the brain-blood barrier. That's a protection mechanism we have. So large molecules do not get into the brain. So when we eat, like turkey, for example, meat, especially that has chicken, they all have tryptophan. And we do not have a carbohydrate with it, we are going to get in a problem. Because what happens? In order for tryptophan to work, we need insulin to be stimulated. We need to have an insulin response in order to carry that tryptophan into the brain. In order for us to have that tryptophan, that insulin response, we need carbohydrate. So carbohydrate is needed so we can get that insulin response so that we can carry the tryptophan into the cross the brain-blood barrier and get into the brain. So that's why after Thanksgiving, we feel so sluggish and all of that, that we eat all this turkey and all this sweet and all of that, and it does not produce that insulin response, which helps with carrying the tryptophan into the blood-brain barrier. And all this tryptophan is left in your muscles. Overactivity of this tryptophan causes the opposite, weakness and tiredness. So I just wanted to bring that out.
So there was another thing that you said about toxic foods and how it affects the excitability of the brain. Most of those foods on the list, Emilyn, were fast foods. And, you know, because we're in a society where we're eating on the go, What advice would you give to our audience of how to counteract that?
Thank you. Yeah. So we all know, everybody knows that fast food is detrimental, is not good, but we still eat fast food because it's the easy thing right there to get to. But we need to really try to stay away from fast food. So in order for you, this is what I do in order to stay away from these foods. First of all, I do not purchase it. I do not have it. Fast food, you will not find fast food, any type of fast food in my pantry. So I make sure I stock up with good healthy food. So in case I need to munch on something, I can grab some nuts, or I can get some seeds, or some sort of or fruit instead of fast food. I know we are sociable being and we go out, and our friends might be wanting to go to a fast food restaurant. Maybe try and discourage them from going and get and try and go to a restaurant that serves more healthier food. Or if you do go, these days, these fast food places, they have salads. So maybe order a salad instead of some French fry or burger or something to that, or even a milkshake. Those things are full of sugar and refined products and chemicals that destroy our body in all in different ways. Talking about the brain, it inhibits the release of these chemicals like tryptophan, amino acid, the release of um, dopamine and serotonin, all of these neurochemicals that are so important for brain function. So if we can stay away from fast food places, surround yourself with more healthier foods, that could be a way of you decreasing the intake of these fast.
I think that if we make a grocery list, that may help also reduce us picking up items that are not as healthy, and not shopping when you're hungry. Because when you're hungry, you pick up everything. Well, you don't pick up everything, but you pick up things that may not be healthy.
That's why when you're hungry, that's why you pick up things that you do not really need and bring it home, and there you go. Yes.
I think for the month of August, for nutrition, 1 Corinthians 10:31, whatsoever you eat or drink or whatsoever you do all to the glory of God. Because if we're not eating well and our brains are not functioning well, it would be very difficult to worship God.
That's right. I agree with that, because we are the temple, and that's how God dwells in us. And for him to dwell in us, he dwells in us through our mind. So if we do not have clear thinking, we can have these distorted thoughts, and we can get discouraged and depressed. And when you are depressed and discouraged, you really don't want to talk to anyone, not even to God. So let us take warning.
Thank you again, Emilyn. Very nice presentation. Next week, we're actually going to have a guest speaker, Dr. Henry Pearson, and he will be talking about first aid in the kitchen. So you don't want to miss it. And then I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Sankey. At this time, normally we usually ask for prayer requests. If anyone has prayer requests, they can state it now. I know we